Hey everybody, welcome back. So you can see all. We'll be getting started in just a couple minutes there, so we'll wait and see if anybody joins up with us. Come on in, and when you come on in, if you guys got any questions, say hi, please. And any questions or anything, we'll see how it is, and I'll see if I can answer them for you. I hope everybody peace there on the Segno, on the Segno, and because it's always a good thing for me to go back to and learn on some.
Thank you for joining us at another episode of the HEMA Pandemic Livestream class. In the last class, we were talking about the Segno from Fior di Liberi. And today we're going to continue with that. We were able last week to talk about two of the four animal virtues. The two animals we talked about were the lynx on top of the head holding the calipers or the compass, and the elephant that is below the figure with the 7 swords. Today what I'd like to do is I'd like to talk about the tiger and the lion. We are going to start with the tiger, and the tiger in the illustration is holding an arrow. Kind of looks like a rat, but it's a tiger. And the word that goes with the tiger in the Italian from the Getty manuscript is presteza. In the Latin manuscript that's the Pisani Dasi, the word that goes with the tiger is celeritas. And celeritas, which in English becomes celerity, which is also where we get the word accelerator. So celeritas, presteza, it means speed. And I'm going to reiterate, like I did last week, that this is my interpretation of the Segno. And it's not this. When I'm looking at the Segno, I'm looking at the virtues of the animals, because I think in the medieval period, that's what they would have done. As mentioned last time, many of the people were illiterate, and so information was passed on through pictures and architecture. And the same is true in the Segno. And if we start looking at the animal virtues, we're going to want to look at how those animals act, because these are the same kinds of things that they would have seen and been aware of. While I don't know that a lot of people would have seen a tiger or a lion, everybody would have seen cats, and they could use that as the basis for what they're doing. Now, the words that go with the tiger, the master says, the tiger runs and turns quickly so that an arrow from the sky will not overcome it. And the tiger in the illustration is holding an arrow. If we look at the way a cat hunts, the first thing the cat does as it goes out to hunt its prey is it stalks. There's as little movement as possible through the cat's body as it takes its time and it gets closer and closer to the target. So if we imagine that we're watching a tiger hunt a herd of wildebeest, the tiger stalks the prey, gets as close as it can with minimal movement, taking its time. It's not rushing to get in there. And once it gets close enough, it doesn't attack right away. So one of the questions I like to ask my students is, when a cat is getting ready to attack its target, when does the cat attack? The normal answer that people like to give me is that when it sees an opening. And you would think that, but that's actually very dangerous. You don't attack when you see an opening. You attack when you're ready. So the tiger gets up close, and it may have an opening because there's this big beast right in front of it. But just because there's an opening doesn't mean it's safe for the tiger to attack yet. So the tiger waits until it's ready to attack. It sees a target that's going to work for it. Once the tiger decides it's going to attack and it launches its attack, it goes in hard, it goes in fast, and it doesn't second guess itself. It just goes and goes hard. So let's imagine we're watching this tiger launch its attack. It has picked its prey. It is ready to attack, so it launches the attack and it goes into the herd. The animal that's been chosen to be the dinner, that animal won't know it's been chosen for dinner until it feels those claws sink into its back and those teeth sink into its neck or its hindquarters. The tiger has kept its intention quiet, close to itself, so it's not letting the herd know which one of them is target. It'll know, obviously, when it's running around and there's a tiger on its tail, but up until that point, it could be any of them. So the tiger has stalked up to its target. It has waited in preparation until it was ready and it had an opening to go. Then it launched its attack, keeping its intention quiet until there was nothing the other animal could do. But let's say that the wildebeest, for whatever reason, gets away from the tiger. Does the tiger go after another target? And the answer to that is no. It normally won't do that. If I launch an attack no, I don't want to go there. If the tiger launches its attack at the prey and the prey escapes, the tiger goes away. It doesn't change course and try to go to another target. Because what happens to the tiger if it hits a hole or it does something and it breaks its leg? It ceases to be a predator and becomes prey itself. So it can't afford to try to change lines and go into another target once it's already launched itself at this one target. Partly because of it could hurt itself trying to go somewhere else, but also because it's blown its energy. And once you've used that energy, you need to recover before you can go after another target. What I'd like to tell people here is that a tiger that has hurt itself, is now prey, but there will always be another meal as long as you're not dead. So it's okay to break off contact, retreat, and understand that you can come back later. Because you're not injured, because you're not dead, you're able to launch another attack. If we take that to us fencing, I'm fencing John. And John gives me, or takes a position that gives me an opening. I don't know if it's a real opening or if it's a trap. Once he has positioned himself in this area, this position, even if it's a real weakness that he's put himself in, if I'm unprepared to launch my attack, but I see this opening and I jump at it, if I don't win now, how do I get out of there? So if we stand up, and John and I, we're fencing, we're fighting, and I see that hand go down. But look at my distance. How's my distance?
You're at distance.
I'm at a distance. But I see that hand go down, so I can throw myself at him. Well, now I put myself in a weak position because I'm slightly out of distance. And how do I get out of the way of that next action? Just because I saw an opening does not mean that it's a good idea to attack that opening. Now, if I see that same thing and I'm here, that's a different matter, because now I'm well within distance to make my strike. And even if he goes to block that, I can drive down into other targets and get other things, because now he's thinking about something else. Because I saw the opening and I was prepared to take advantage of it. An opening that you're not prepared to take advantage of is a trap for you. It could be dangerous to you because you're not able to do the next thing. And as I've mentioned in other videos, if you're in the now, you're too late. So if I'm in here and I see that hand drop down, I go, oh, opening, I got him. And I throw, and I'm just a little bit out of distance. How am I going to get out of here before he can finish his blow? Because I was in the now, not the and then. And if you're in the now, you're too late. You have to be in the and then. And our tiger moves so quickly that an arrow from the sky cannot pass it. Because once he goes hard. And it either hits the target or it doesn't. You're not going to pull that arrow back once you've loosed it. So once you throw your attack, that attack is done. What's going to happen afterwards? And so our tiger tells us that we need to get in, but take our time to get in. So if we start here, and we need swords for this. Can you grab 2 swords? If I start out of distance, I don't want to just rush in on my opponent, because if I do that, I now have given away all my intention before I get into a position where I can attack safely. So the first thing we do with our tiger is we stalk. Thank you. So if I start over here and we're out of distance, the last thing I want to do is just come right in, because I've now given him the whole advantage. That doesn't mean I don't want to move with intent or quickly. But if I can position myself that now he has to respond to me, this is my stalking. So then when he goes, I was able to launch my attack because he was responding to it. I was out of distance, and I knew that. But because I was out of distance, let's do that again. And this is where my tiger ties into my lynx. I start here, and I do this, and I'm out of distance. Now, go back, do that again. Go ahead and cut through.
Yeah.
Because I'm out of distance. I don't need to worry about his sword. But because I hit here, I stalked to this position, to middle iron door. Go back, do that again, please. And just go to short guard like you did. Now I'm in distance to make my strike because I was able to stalk my target and I attacked when I was ready. If I do that same thing, but I start here, now it's not going to work for me because I'm out of position. I don't have the same opening that he gave me before. So, well, let me change that. I have the same opening that he gave me before, but I'm not ready to launch my attack. So my tiger, you, me, John, we are predators. We are hunting. And like the tiger, we hunt, we stalk our target, we prepare ourselves, we launch our attack. If, however, my opponent, say he gets his defense. So, I'm going to start here again. So I come in and I do this and he covers that, right? That's not going to work for me. But if I start that same action and I try to change my target, I put myself in a really weak position and I can hurt my body. I can hurt myself because there's all this mass and this energy that I'm throwing away from my body and it's pulling me out of position. And this is how we, in our martial arts practice, tear our shoulders, our rotator cuffs, how we throw out a rib, how we pull a muscle, how we tear an ACL, because we try to change our motion in the middle of it. If I'm unable to complete that action, let's do that again. I'm back out of distance and I'm ready to start stalking my opponent again. There's a distinct difference in using these actions in a tournament because there's no real repercussions versus fighting with a sword, even a dull sword, wearing just a shirt. I can't afford to risk my body. Therefore, I'm not going to try to turn myself and make something work that doesn't exist, because that's how I get hurt, or I put myself in a position that he can take advantage of. Did you have something you wanted to say?
No.
Oh, okay.
So I thought I had something there, but you discovered it something.
So there's the lion, or the tiger, in the Segno. It starts out a distance. It stalks its target. It prepares itself. It launches its attack when it's ready, not necessarily when it sees an opening. It doesn't necessarily, it keeps the intention hidden. So if we go back to where we were, and I'm here, and I come through to this angle here, it looks like I want to take a low guard, which I think is why he went to short guard earlier, or if he was German into Flug, because he's covering that line. Now, it looks like this is open, but it's not, because all he has to do is move his hands just a little bit, and I run onto his point. So that's one of those instances where just because I see an opening doesn't mean it's a good idea to attack. And then, once I've launched my attack, I don't second guess myself. And that's actually one of the hardest things for us to wrap our heads around. We second guess ourselves, and we try to go for something that we might think is better in that moment. But instead of doing that, just let it go. There will always be another meal as long as you're not dead. And that takes us to our fourth animal, which is the lion. And the lion in the Segno is holding a heart. Looks like an acorn, but it's a heart. And the word that's above the lion in the Getty manuscript is ardimento, courage. In the Pisani Dasi, in Latin, it says audacious. So you need audacity, you need courage. And the lion is on my left hand. The words that go with the lion are, no one more than the lion carries courage, but to battle, others are invited. And I think there's a couple reasons that the courage is on the left hand. And the reason for that is if I'm fighting my opponent and I come in, once I extend my left hand, this has no protection. So I have to have the courage to move my body in front of my defense. And a fight at speed, that takes a lot of courage. It's also very easy, if John is attacking me, for me to want to maintain or increase distance, to go backwards if he's coming forwards. The problem with this, of course, is that I don't know what's behind me. I've got my links, but I can't see what's behind me, and he could be running me into something, or he could have friends there. So I need the courage to move forward. When I'm teaching a lot of the classes here at DEMAS, almost all of our actions have us continuing forward. I run away in the direction I'm already facing because that's the safest place for me to go. Our natural tendency is to want to go backwards, but what's there? I don't know. And he could pin me into something. In body language, they call that blocking. And I don't want to be blocked in. So the courage is on the left hand, partly because I need to extend my left hand to grapple, to close. But I think also it's on the left hand because of the lines he says. And when he says, no one more than the lion carries courage, but to battle, others are invited. Every time you choose a guard, you do one of three things. You either make your opponent unable to attack you, unwilling to attack you, or you invite him to attack you. One of those three things happens every time you move. And it's either done intentionally or unintentionally. And if those choices, you are making those choices unintentionally, you are now unable to use them to your advantage, to capitalize on them. So if you understand that you do one of these three things every time, you can now use this tactically. But to battle, others are invited, he says. So if I've got my opponent in a position, let's go back out there. And choose a card, whatever you want. Tail guard. So if I go to, let's go short guard. No, I'm going to go back just a little bit and go to long guard. Because now, in order for him to get past my sword, to get to me, he has to move my sword out of the way. So at this point, I've made him unwilling to attack me because I'm too far out of distance without having to move my sword, giving me a whole tempo. But now he's unwilling to attack me because it's going to cost him time. Now, actually, I'm even going to do it this way.
Oh, that's a lot better. Yeah.
How so?
Oh, I really want to go over here and swing at this angle with your head. I want to throw a charge and then they right now.
The problem is that I've got the distinct advantage to it. So I'll move from here to here. What about now?
Yeah, I'm a little less wary to be able to move into that space.
So in either case, he's unable to hit me on this side of my body. So now I've made my opponent unable to attack me here. Now I've made him unwilling to attack me because it's going to cost too much time. My third option is I make him invited. And now I've given him a big invitation to hit me. And the question for that is, why would I want to invite him to hit me? And if I know where he's going to go, I already have my plan in mind. So if we're fencing and I invite him to attack me in a certain position at a certain target, even though he moved his sword first, who actually initiated this fight? I did, because I pulled him into where I wanted him to be because I had a plan. So let's say he's there in tail guard, and I go to open iron door, and he does whatever he wants to do. Right? And I can do that, or do it again. And I can go in there and do those things. But I already have a plan in mind. So if I invite him to attack me, I'm initiating the action. And like the lion says, but to battle others are invited. I want him to attack me. Many people look at the Italian system as being a counter-puncher kind of system. But if I'm bringing him in to attack me where I want him to attack me, am I counter-punching? Or am I initiating the action on the psychological level? And it moves out of just the attacks. I can create time, because every time I choose a guard, I make him unable to stay in the guard he's in, unwilling to stay in the guard he's in, or I invite him to stay in the guard he's in. So choose another guard, John.
Okay.
Woman's guard, reverse. Posta di donna sinistra. If I want him to be unwilling to stay in that guard, I'll mirror him. He can stay here, but go ahead and slowly launch an attack. He knows I've got that line closed. I haven't done anything yet, but I can make him unwilling to stay there. Go back to that guard. Now I'm going to make him unable to stay there. So I'll go to a crown guard. At crown guard, he can no longer hit me on an upper line. Even if he goes to the other side.
I'm not going to reach you over here.
Because I'm covered. And I know this. And then I can hit him. So now I've made him unable to stay in that guard. Unwilling? Here's another unwilling. Go back into that.
Yep.
Boar's tooth. It makes people unwilling to be in a high guard because they know what I'm going to do. If you're not quite sure what to do when you see somebody in a guard, copy them. It works wonders because then it makes them rethink what they're doing. And that can create the action. Or I can invite him to stay in that guard. And if I want to invite him to stay in that guard, I'll do this. Yeah. Because if I'm in open iron door, he has access to either side of my head and to other targets as well. But now watch this. This is how I can turn invited to unwilling. Now, all I did was turn my toe out. And here's why, well, actually, I want you to tell them. What do you feel right now?
At the moment, I feel that, well, first we have the obvious. I've got a nice large target for my descending line of attack. I can come from my right, or I can come from my left, and I have ample targets to choose from. So I can hit them. But right now, also, what it's giving me is I feel that I have the tempo to reach the target, so I can be ahead in this time right now. So I feel that I have put you in a position that I have the advantage in this time. Because you are out there, your point has to travel through the center, and come up, while mine is already coming in this line.
And it can be risky for me.
Yep. So I have that option.
But if I turn my toe out,
You've now closed that. And it doesn't look like it, but he's closed that because he's now shortened the time to get to where he wants to be.
what I've done is by turning my toe out, and this is where links comes in. So he's seeing this to start off with. We're here. And what it does is it takes my right shoulder and it moves me slightly over, and it removes this target from his attack, and it brings my sword closer to the middle,
So I'm limited to the only working over here.
which can easily be covered with my sword.
Yep.
So, understanding how every action I do can make my opponent unable, unwilling, or invite them to attack me means I can use my lion, my courage, to invite them. And if we go back to it being on the left hand, he throws an attack at me, and I'll go in here. We can get into all these other actions that we want to do. And this allows me to use my lion to reach out with my left hand and counterattack. Now, I was saying last week and today that they work in opposition. Thank you very much.
You're very welcome.
So our links, if we have good links, we can understand and see what's going on around us and create the time through the use of their guards. We can also potentially walk them into something or into bad terrain, which weakens their elephant. I can counter the links with my elephant because I can recognize that this step takes less time than this step. So I can still his tempo. My tiger counters my lion, and my lion counters my tiger, because speed without courage is a waste of time. You don't get in your car just to drive. You get in your car because you have somewhere to go. And that's what our tiger ties with our elephant. Our footwork is taking us somewhere. We are not moving just to move. We have somewhere to go, and that's our stalking. But if I'm moving for no apparent reason, I have no courage, I'm not closing distance, I'm not doing any of that, it's just a waste of time and energy. But courage without speed is suicide. If I just walk in on John, he's going to stick a sword through my body. And I dislike that. So if I see somebody who's just moving for movement's sake, I'm going to come in hard and fast. There's my lion. But if I see somebody who is coming in hard and fast because their spirit animal is rhinoceros, I'm going to use my tiger and my speed to close off their line and make them pay for coming in without paying attention to anything else. So all of these virtues work together and at the same time counter each other. You can't have one without the others, whether it's good or bad. You can't do one bad virtue. They're all bad in some way. Just like you can't do one good virtue. They're all good in some way. So if I've got good elephant, that means I've also got good links because I know what the terrain is like and I know where I'm putting my feet. And because my back is straight, I understand how my tempo is going to work for launching my attack from my castle tower and then returning to my attack, my defensive position when he counterattacks, so I can sally forth once again. if I have speed, but don't have the courage to close distance, that's because I have both a lack of lion and a lack of lynx. And quite often in fights, people get hit most often on the hands. And I think the reason people get hit most often on the hands is because one or both are unsure of distance. In your training, if you ever have a problem with any drill, first and foremost, check measure. Your links can fix almost any problem you've got. And how do you support the links? What virtue supports the link?
The elephant.
The elephant. If I'm out of distance, I don't lean because there goes my tower. I take another step or a different type of step.
If I can't reach you with a small advancement, why not use a larger advancement?
So if I can't do an accessory, I'll do a mezzovolta.
Mm-hmm.
If I don't want to move my sword much because you're already in a strong position, I'll do a tuta volta and put my body behind my sword. Therefore, I don't need to move as much. So all of these virtues come together. And what the master says is whoever wants to be good in this art will know of these virtues. Understanding these virtues is only the beginning. Once you have an understanding of these virtues, now you can start using it. The drill that usually follows this lesson in our curriculum is that I have two people moving around, going from guard to guard, using guards, footwork, and distance. And then one of them, the more experienced, is going to be illustrating bad virtue. So bad lynx, bad lion, bad tiger, or bad elephant. And the other one is going to tell him what he's seeing. If I see and understand what the other guy is doing, now I know how to take advantage of it or counter it. And I'll do one example of that before we have to head out. So if John and I are moving through our guards, and I'm going to be illustrating a poor virtue. Okay, ready?
Yeah. Okay, so I see one here right now.
Which one?
I see tiger and I see elephant actually.
Why? Why elephant?
So elephant is because you're in wide and you're kind of stumped. You're stepping in and then you're grounding into the spot. So you're very rigid in your step.
And I was going for elephant.
Uh-huh.
And tiger, why?
Because you're moving all over the place.
For no real reason.
There was no need for you to do that excessive motion.
But my goal was bad tiger, or bad elephant. I wanted you to see the bad elephant.
Yep.
And if I've got bad elephant, John can counter me with good tiger. Because he knows through his links how much time every action is going to take. There is our lesson on the Segno. This is my interpretation of the Segno. I've worked with many people over the years. I hope that you enjoyed this as much as I enjoy talking about it because there's so much information in this. And what we've talked about is only the first of several depths of level in the Segno. We've got the physical that we were just talking about. We've got the oppositional. We also have the metaphysical, celestial versus earthly, all of these kinds of things. And it's also the same type of thing that we see quite often in other arts. If you can hold it a moment. And here's why I say that. When you look at Fiore's illustration, he's standing with his left arm over his right arm. And what this is his lion holding his heart, his compassion, is covering his tiger holding the arrow, his war. So my compassion covers my war until it's no longer time to be compassionate. We see this in Kung Fu. Left hand over the right hand. When they bow, my left covers my right. It's not an uncommon theory. It's not an uncommon practice. It's in multiple systems from around the world. So with that, I'd like to thank you again for joining us. John, thank you very much for your help. Always a pleasure. And with that, I hope you and yours are doing well. We're getting closer into stage 3, so we'll be able to return. Until the day that we can return to train together, take care of yourself, stay safe, stay sane, and we'll see you on the other side of this. Thanks again. Boom.
Good to see y'all.